A single tin of baked beans costs less than 50 pence. Yet inside that humble blue tin sits the foundation of more than 24 proper dinners, each one warm, filling, and kind to a pension that has to stretch a little further every month. If you cook for one, you already know the quiet challenge of it. The waste, the bother, the temptation some evenings to skip a meal altogether. But these 25 dinners change that. Number 14 turns a 30-pence tin into something that tastes like a Sunday treat. And number 3 was a wartime trick that costs almost nothing, yet keeps you full for hours. Before we begin, stay with me right to the end, because the cheapest and most comforting of them all is saved for last. Let us count down from number 25. Number 25, beans and a single fried egg. When the cupboard looks bare and the evening feels long, this is the supper that asks almost nothing of you. Warm half a tin of beans in a small pan, no more than 4 minutes on a low ring, while a single egg sizzles gently in a smear of oil beside it. Slide the egg on top so the yolk runs golden into the beans, and you have a plate that costs perhaps 25 pence, yet sits like a proper meal. For one person living alone, the beauty is the portion. Half a tin tonight, the other half tomorrow, with the open tin tipped into a covered dish in the fridge. No waste, no fuss. The egg lifts it from a snack to a dinner, adding the protein an older body needs, and there is barely a pan to scrub afterward. Number 24. Beans on a warm crumpet. Forget toast for a moment. 2 crumpets toasted until the holes turn crisp and golden make a softer, more comforting base for a pool of hot beans than any slice of bread. The beans sink into those little wells, and every bite holds the warmth. A pack of crumpets costs around 50 pence and gives you 6, so the cost per supper drops to pennies. For anyone who finds toast a touch dry or hard on the teeth, the crumpet is gentler and more forgiving. A knob of butter underneath melts into the beans above. It is the kind of small pleasure that makes eating alone feel like being looked after, even when there is no one else in the house to do the looking after. Number 23. The 5-minute beans and cheese melt. Tip half a tin of beans into an oven-proof bowl, scatter a handful of grated cheese over the top, and slide it under the grill until the cheese bubbles and turns brown at the edges. That is the whole recipe. The grill does the work while you lay the table or pour a cup of tea. A small block of cheddar lasts a week of suppers, and a tin of beans split into 2 servings means this dish costs barely 40 pence. The melted cheese forms a golden crust that hides the beans beneath, and the first crack of the spoon through it is genuinely satisfying. Served with a slice of bread to mop the bowl, it is warming, filling, and there is only one dish to wash. Number 22. Beans and a jacket potato. Few suppers stretch a few pennies further than a baked potato split open and flooded with hot beans. One large potato costs around 20 pence loose from the greengrocer, and a microwave brings it to fluffy softness in 8 minutes if standing over a hot oven feels like too much. Score a cross in the top, press the sides until it opens like a flower, and spoon the beans straight into the middle. A pat of butter, a little grated cheese if you have it, and the whole plate comes in under 50 pence. The potato skin holds the heat, so the meal stays warm right to the last forkful. It fills you up the way few cheap dinners can, and for a body that needs its fiber and its warmth, there is little better on a cold evening. Number 21. Sausage and beans in one pan. Here is the supper that smells of Saturday mornings. Brown 2 cheap sausages in a small pan, Then tip half a tin of beans around them and let the lot bubble together for a few minutes. The sausages give up their savory fat into the beans, and the beans turn richer for it. A pack of value sausages costs around £1 for 8, so 2 sausages and half a tin works out to roughly 50 pence. Cook all the sausages at once and keep the spares in the fridge, ready to drop into tomorrow's beans with no effort at all. This is a dinner with backbone, the kind that sees you through a long evening, and it dirties only the single pan you cooked it in. Number 20. Beans on fried bread. First small pattern break. Now, this one your generation will remember, and the younger crowd have entirely forgotten. A slice of bread fried in a little hot fat until it turns crisp and golden makes a base with a crunch that ordinary toast cannot match. The fried bread soaks up the bean juice without going soggy too fast, holding its bite right to the end. It costs almost nothing, a slice of bread and a teaspoon of oil or dripping, perhaps 15 pence all told. Older hands will recall this from childhood breakfasts, when nothing was wasted and a loaf had to last. There is comfort in that memory, and there is real substance in the plate. A treat once a week, perhaps, rather than every night, but a proper one when you have it. Number 19. Beans and bacon. A single rasher of bacon transforms a tin of beans into something that tastes far dearer than it is. Snip the rasher into small pieces with scissors, crisp them in a dry pan, then pour the beans in to warm through in the smoky fat. The salt and the smoke run all the way through, and suddenly the humble bean tastes like a cafe breakfast. A pack of bacon offcuts or cooking bacon costs little, and a single rasher per supper keeps the price near 40 pence. For one person, this is the clever way to enjoy bacon without buying a whole fry-up. The flavor does the heavy lifting, so a small amount goes a long way, which is exactly what a careful kitchen needs. Number 18. Cowboy beans with onion. Soften half a chopped onion in a little oil until it turns sweet and golden. Then tip in the beans and a shake of pepper. The onion changes everything, adding a depth and a sweetness that lifts the beans clear out of the ordinary. An onion costs perhaps 12 pence, and you only need half, so the spare keeps in the fridge for tomorrow. This is a supper with a bit more to it, more like a stew than a snack, and it sits warm and heavy in a way that sees you through till morning. Spoon it over toast, over a potato, or eat it straight from the bowl with bread. The smell of frying onion alone is enough to make a quiet kitchen feel alive again. Number 17. Beans and mashed potato. When you want something soft, warming, and easy on the teeth, beans poured over a mound of buttery mash is hard to beat. Boil one potato, mash it with a little milk and butter, and pour the hot beans into a well in the middle. The mash soaks up the sauce, and the whole plate turns into the gentlest kind of comfort food. A potato and a splash of milk costs around 25 pence, and the dish needs no chewing to speak of, which matters more as the years pass. It is the supper of nursery teas and hard times both, and it carries a quiet familiarity. Filling, soft, and cheap, it is the dinner to reach for on the evenings when you want to be comforted more than challenged. Number 16. Quick bean and tomato soup. Half a tin of beans, blended or simply mashed with a fork, loosened with a mug of hot water and a shake of pepper, makes a thick, rust-colored soup in under 5 minutes. If you have a stock cube, crumble half of it in for depth. The beans bring their own thickness, so there is no flour, no fuss, and no straining. A bowl of this costs barely 25 pence, and warms you from the inside on a raw evening. For anyone who finds a full plate too much these days, soup is the kinder option, easy to manage and easy to digest. A hunk of bread on the side turns it into a proper supper, and the leftovers reheat beautifully the next day. Number 15. Beans on a baked sweet potato. A sweet potato brings a natural sweetness that plays beautifully against the savory beans, and it carries more goodness for a body that needs it. Bake or microwave one until soft. Split it open and spoon the hot beans into the orange flesh. The contrast of sweet and savory makes this feel like a treat rather than a thrift meal, though a sweet potato costs little more than an ordinary one. The soft flesh needs no real chewing, and the whole thing is gentle on the stomach. For one person, it is the same easy method as a jacket potato, but with a little more interest on the plate. A scatter of cheese on top, melted by the heat of the potato, finishes it off handsomely. Number 14. Beans, egg, and cheese on toast. The works. Second pattern break. Now here is the one I promised you, the 30p tin turned into a Sunday treat. Pile hot beans onto buttered toast, crack a fried or poached egg on top, then scatter grated cheese over the lot while everything is still hot enough to melt it. 3 cheap ingredients stacked together make a supper that looks like it belongs in a cafe window. The yolk, the beans, and the melting cheese run into one another in a way that is almost indecent for the price. All in, with 1 egg and a little cheese, it comes to perhaps 45p. It is the dish to make when you want to feel you have eaten properly, when the day has been long and you deserve a bit of generosity on your own plate. You absolutely do. Number 13. Beans with tinned mackerel or sardines. A tin of mackerel costs around £1 and brings the kind of oily fish goodness an older body genuinely benefits from. Flake the fish, warm it gently with half a tin of beans, and spoon the lot over toast. The richness of the fish and the sweetness of the beans balance one another, and the whole thing feels nourishing in a deep, quiet way. Half a tin of fish and half a tin of beans keeps the cost near 60p, and the other halves wait in the fridge for tomorrow. For anyone watching the Pennies but worried about eating well, this is the supper that does both. It is the sort of meal your doctor would nod approvingly at, and it asks nothing more than a fork and a few minutes. Number 12. Beans and grilled tomato on toast. Halve a tomato, sit it under the grill until it softens and chars at the edges, and serve it alongside beans on toast. The grilled tomato collapses into a sweet, slightly smoky pool that mingles with the beans, and suddenly a plain plate has 2 textures and 2 flavors instead of 1. A tomato costs a few pennies, and the dish stays well under 40p. There is something restful about the small ritual of it, the grill warming the kitchen, the tomato softening while the toast browns. For one person, these little touches matter. They turn the act of feeding yourself from a chore into something closer to care. And the warm tomato adds a freshness that the tin alone can never quite manage. Number 11. Beans and a quick omelette. Beat 2 eggs, cook them flat and golden in a small pan. Then spoon hot beans down the middle and fold the omelette over the top like a parcel. The eggs hold the beans inside in a soft, savory pillow, and the dish feels far more substantial than its cost suggests. 2 eggs and half a tin of beans come to around 40p, and the whole thing takes 5 minutes start to finish. For a body that needs its protein, this is one of the cheapest ways to get a good dose of it. The omelette is gentle to eat and quick to make, and there is real pleasure in turning out a neat folded supper on your own plate, browned just so, with the beans steaming gently inside. Number 10. Beans with black pudding. A few slices of black pudding, fried until crisp at the edges, turn beans into a supper with proper northern heft. The dark, peppery richness of the pudding against the sweet beans is a pairing that working kitchens have loved for generations. A ring of black pudding costs little and gives you several suppers worth of slices, so each plate works out to around 50 pence. The iron in the pudding does an older body good, and the flavor is bold enough to wake up a tired appetite on the evenings when nothing much appeals. Serve it on toast or beside a fried egg, and you have a plate that smells of breakfasts past. It is hearty, it is cheap, and it carries the memory of a proper fry-up without the cost of one. Number 9. Beans on rice. A handful of rice, boiled soft, makes a base that stretches half a tin of beans into a filling bowl that costs barely 30 pence. The beans and their sauce soak into the rice, and the whole thing turns into a comforting, gently spiced supper if you add a pinch of curry powder or pepper. Rice keeps for an age in the cupboard, so it is the ideal standby for the days when the fridge is empty and the shops feel too far. Cook a little extra, and the spare rice waits in the fridge for tomorrow's lunch. For one person, this is thrift at its finest, a cupboard meal that asks nothing of you but a pan of water and a few minutes wait, yet leaves you warm and full. Number 8. Beans and corned beef hash. Third pattern break. Here is where a tin of beans meets an old wartime friend. Fry diced potato and a little chopped corned beef until brown and crisp, then tip the beans in, binding it all together into a savory golden hash. The corned beef brings salt and richness, the potato brings substance, and the beans bring sweetness and sauce. A tin of corned beef costs more than beans, but a third of the tin per supper keeps each plate near 60 pence, and the rest waits in the fridge. This is a dish that fed families through rationing, and it still fills a hungry stomach better than almost anything for the money. Crisp at the edges, soft in the middle. It is the supper to make when you want something with real backbone. Number 7. Beans wrapped in a wrap or pancake. Warm a tortilla wrap or a thin pancake, pile beans down the center, add a little cheese and roll it up tight. The beans stay hot inside the parcel, and you can eat it in the hand, which is a gift on the evenings when sitting at a laid table feels like too much ceremony for one. A pack of wraps costs around 60 pence and lasts a week of suppers. There is something easy and undemanding about a meal you can hold, eat in the armchair, and enjoy without a clatter of cutlery. The wrap holds everything together neatly, so there is no mess and barely a plate to wash. Cheap, warm, and easy, it is the supper for the quiet nights when comfort matters more than formality. Number 6. Beans and mushrooms on toast. Soften a few sliced mushrooms in a little butter until they turn dark and savory. Then tip in the beans to warm through. The mushrooms bring an earthy depth that makes the whole plate taste richer and more grown up than beans alone. A small punnet of mushrooms costs little and lasts several suppers, so each plate comes in around 45 pence. The smell of frying mushrooms in butter is one of the great small pleasures of cooking, and it fills an empty kitchen with the sense that something good is on its way. Spooned over hot, buttered toast, it is a supper that feels generous and warming, the kind that makes an ordinary Tuesday evening feel a touch more cared for. And mushrooms are gentle and easy to eat. Number 5. Beans and a soft poached egg. A poached egg sits even more gently on a plate of beans than a fried one, its white soft and its yolk waiting to spill golden across the top. Slip an egg into barely simmering water for 3 minutes, lift it out, and lay it on a bed of hot beans. There is no frying, no fat, and very little washing up. The cost is barely 30 pence, and the dish is as easy on the stomach as it is on the purse. For anyone minding their health, this is the cleaner, lighter way to top a plate of beans with an egg. When the yolk breaks and runs into the sauce, the whole bowl turns richer, and you have a supper that feels nourishing and kind, made with hardly any effort at all. Number 4. Beans and a baked egg in one dish. Tip half a tin of beans into an oven-proof dish. Make a small well in the middle, crack an egg into it, and bake until the white sets and the yolk stays soft. Everything cooks together in the one dish, so there is a single bowl to wash and nothing to stand over. The beans bubble at the edges while the egg sets in its little nest, and the result looks far grander than the 35 pence it cost. A sprinkle of cheese over the top before baking makes it richer still. This is the supper for the evenings when you want something warm from the oven, but cannot face a proper cook. It tends itself while you rest, and it comes to the table looking like you went to real trouble. You did not. Number 3. The wartime beans and oats trick. 4th pattern break. Now here is the penny stretcher I promised, an old trick from the days when nothing went to waste. Stir a small handful of porridge oats into your beans as they warm, with a splash of water. The oats swell and thicken the sauce, turning half a tin into a fuller, heartier bowl that fills you up for hours. It sounds odd, and your grandmother would have nodded and got on with it. Oats cost almost nothing, a few pennies a serving, and they bring slow release energy that keeps hunger away long into the evening. This was how careful kitchens made a little go a long way, and it works just as well today. The oats vanish into the sauce, leaving only a thicker, more satisfying bowl. On the leanest weeks, this is the trick that keeps a tin of beans feeding you properly. Number 2. Beans and cheese toasty. Spread beans and a little grated cheese between 2 slices of bread, butter the outsides, and toast the whole thing in a dry pan, pressing it flat until golden and crisp on both sides. The beans and cheese melt together inside into a hot, savory filling, and the crisp bread holds it all in. A toasty like this costs barely 40 pence and eats like a treat from a cafe counter. For one person, it is the perfect small supper, easy to hold, easy to make, and deeply satisfying when the cheese pulls into strings as you bite. The contrast of the crunchy outside and the soft, hot middle is what makes it special. It is the sort of supper that warms your hands as much as your stomach on a cold evening alone. And finally, in first place, number 1. Beans on hot buttered toast. There was only ever going to be one winner. 2 slices of bread toasted until golden, spread thick with real butter so it melts into every corner, then crowned with a tin of beans bubbling hot from the pan. It is the cheapest of them all, perhaps 30 pence a plate, and it remains the most comforting supper this country ever produced. There is no skill required, no waste, and barely a pan to clean. Yet it never fails to satisfy, never fails to warm, and never fails to feel like home. For anyone cooking for one, this is the dependable old friend that asks nothing and gives everything. The butter, the beans, the crisp toast underneath. That is the whole quiet magic of it. Generations have leaned on this plate, and it has never once let them down. There you have it. 25 proper dinners, every one built from a tin that costs less than 50 pence. Cooking for one need never mean eating poorly, and a careful kitchen has always known that the humblest tin can fill a plate, warm an evening, and feel like care. Try one of these this week, and let me know in the comments which became your favorite. And if this brought back a memory or gave you an idea for tonight's tea, do leave a like and subscribe so the next one finds its way to you.